Hey there, and welcome to a new episode of the Dietitian Success Podcast, the business, marketing, and entrepreneurship podcast specifically for registered dietitians. I'm your host, Krista Kolajesic, and every week I pop in and I record a new episode where I talk about some topic in business and entrepreneurship for dietitians. Today, I want to do, because we are in June, I want to do a little mid-year goal check-in. So the format for today's episode is a little bit different than normally. I will tackle 3 different questions, but today I want to actually talk about goal setting. I want to do a little mid-year goal check-in where I'll share with you how I've been progressing on my goals. So I shared my goals on Instagram at the beginning of the year. And so I'll talk to you about what those goals were, my mid-year check-in, so how am I progressing on those goals? And then I will actually talk through my framework for setting goals, because this is a framework that I have refined over the years, and it's really become, I think, my own sort of signature framework for how I set goals. I haven't really seen anybody else do it this way before. And what's been really cool to see is that I've taught it a few times in the past within the DSC community. And it seems like this topic always really resonates with people. It's a completely different way of thinking about how to set meaningful goals that you can actually achieve versus, writing something in a notebook and then never having it see the light of day again. And I've gotten a lot of really great feedback on this framework, hearing people say, this really clicked. Like, I have used this framework now every year when I go to set my goals, and I've achieved a lot of goals since I started using this framework. And so I'm going to teach like a high level overview of this framework, but I'm actually going to be teaching this more in depth at the Dietitian Success Summit, which is our in-person live event, which is happening in Toronto this September 28th to 30th in Toronto. And so I'm actually going to be teaching this framework. I think the way we have it set up in the schedule right now is I have it on day 1. So it's going to be open to all attendees. Everyone who purchases either the general or the entrepreneur pass will have access to this session. So we're going to talk about this framework. I'm going to teach through this framework in depth on day 1. And then we're actually going to go through the exercise of setting some personal, professional, business goals, and then kind of checking in on those goals as the summit progresses. So it's going to be really fun. But let's get into it today. I want to talk through goal setting, my process for goal setting, and then I'll give you a little check-in on where I'm at with my goals. Okay. So how many of you have written out a goal or many goals, perhaps on January 1st or maybe any other day of the year, and you've felt really inspired, really motivated, you set a goal, you put it in a notebook, and then it never sees the light of day again. It gets lost in the notebook and you don't even know where it's gone. And suddenly it's June and you're like, wait, where did those goals go? This used to happen to me all the time. I actually really love setting New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals because I think it's like such a great moment in time to be able to do a little bit of reflection. I think New Year's resolutions generally get a bad rap, but bad rep or bad rap? I don't know. Bad rep? Because like reputation, short for reputation. Anyways, I think they get a bad reputation because this whole idea of like, well, like, shouldn't we be sort of progressing towards goals every day or thinking about goal orientation every day? Or the inverse of that, which we see a lot now, is like, I think goals or goal orientation being associated with like kind of the hustle culture, which is like also not what we're getting at here. I think there's such a middle ground of like healthy progression, healthy forward momentum as a human, healthy, just movement in a direction that you decide you want to go, and keeping track of that and keeping track of your progress towards that destination. So I think that there's a really healthy middle ground here where we can set just some really like positive, achievable, maintainable, just purpose-oriented goals that don't make us feel any undue stress, but help us move forward as people. Because I think every single one of us has sort of a version of ourselves in our mind that we want to become. And I think that this is really a great methodology for how to become that person. And I know that for me, like this was really my process. I became a completely different person when I started this process. And like I went from being the Krista who never, ever, ever thought that entrepreneurship was something that she would ever pursue to somebody who was running a business full-time and quit their job and did an Ironman. Like I'll talk through sort of what that looked like. So when I think this was back in like maybe 2019, 2020, and I started to think a lot more about, well, I had a really long commute to work every day. It was an hour and a half one way. So I was spending about 3 hours in the car every day, and which is an insane amount of time. And I started listening to podcasts, a lot of podcasts. And I often say that was like my free business education at the time, because I learned so much about business and entrepreneurship from all of the free information that I could find on the internet. And I started to, at that time as well, was exposed to a lot of like personal development type content and goal setting and all of these things. And so I started to go through the process of setting process-oriented goals every year or every 6 months or whatever. And every morning I would have this daily practice of checking in on my goals and seeing how I was doing. And I was setting goals in different aspects of my life. So I was setting business goals, professional goals, personal goals, wellness goals, financial goals. And every morning, again, I would check in on those goals. I'll talk about what a process-oriented goal is in a minute. And I couldn't believe the progress that I was able to make when I started this way of doing things. It was pretty incredible. Like I said, I became the type of person who was working a 9-to-5 job, commuting 3 hours every single day. I was active, but I never really had anything that I was like actively training for. I ran occasionally. I like to do like workout apps and stuff. I was doing some strength training, just going to the gym regularly. But the idea of doing something like an Ironman or like a triathlon was like very far out of reach for me. And so I became the type of person who was which was great, working 9-to-5, working out regularly, etc., which was great. And I was happy there. But I also had this vision of who I thought I could be. And who I thought I could be was someone who was running a business full-time entrepreneur, reaching a level of financial success that I just didn't feel like was possible in my 9-to-5 job, and doing really amazing athletic endeavors like an Ironman triathlon. If you've never heard of an Ironman triathlon, it's like a really long race, a triathlon race. So swim followed by bike, followed by run, 3.8 kilometer swim, followed by 180 kilometer bike, followed by a full marathon. And I became the person who did that. And it was all because of this process and this framework for how I started to set goals. So what does this actually look like? Okay, so there are, in my brain, I qualify goals as being sort of falling under two different categories. We have destination goals and we have process-oriented goals. Now, a destination goal in my mind, and again, maybe somebody else has come up with these terms before, but in my brain, these are how I think of them. These are the terms I've made up for these types of goals. A destination goal is the type of goal that most of us are probably used to setting. And a destination goal is a goal that quantifies the destination of where we want to be. So I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to make $100,000. These are all destinations. They are the final result of achieving this goal. Now, while destination goals can be helpful, I think one of the biggest reasons why destination goals often don't get achieved is because we don't really understand or take the time to break down what we actually need to do in order to get to that goal, right? So if you want to lose 10 pounds, that's not just going to happen for you overnight. There's a series of things that need to happen, changes you need to make in your life in order to achieve that goal. Same with making $100,000, right? It's that's not just going to happen overnight. There's a series of marketing steps, maybe education, all of these different things that need to be done in order to actually achieve that $100,000 goal. Though I think destination goals can be helpful, and I always have a destination goal set for my business finances. So like how much I want to, or the revenue number that I want to hit business-wise, I always have a destination goal every single year. But you better believe that that destination goal is broken down into like 15 process-oriented goals that are the things that actually need to happen day to day in order for us to actually hit that goal. So then that leads me to process-oriented goals. And this is really where I think that this framework comes to life and where it becomes insanely effective. Process-oriented goals are the day-to-day things that we need to do. And it can be daily, it can be weekly, it can be monthly. The things that we need to continuously do in order to achieve whatever destination that we want to achieve. So for example, a process-oriented goal would be, I want to go for 50 runs in 2026. I want to read 30 books this year. I want to have a FaceTime chat with a long distance friend 1 time a month. I want to meditate 50 times in 2026. So these are things that every single day we can either say, did I do this or did I not do this? And I think what's so cool about process-oriented goals is that the destination goal almost becomes sort of obsolete when you have process-oriented goals, because you become a different type of person the more you work towards your process or work on your process-oriented goals. And really, goal setting, and this is something that I've learned from Brooke Castillo, she has a really great podcast, and she's a life coach, and she talks a lot about goal setting, and she talks about how important it can be to set like a really big, audacious goal for your life. So something that feels like so incredibly out of reach for you, because the point is not whether you actually achieve that goal. The point is the person you become on the pursuit of achieving that goal. And that's where I think things become really, really, really interesting. And that's where you can see really, really meaningful change, is when we have these like small micro goals every day or every week that are so much easier to track and measure than that big destination goal of, I want to make $100,000. So the other reason why a few reasons why I really like process-oriented goals is that they also feel a lot more realistic and attainable, right? Like making $100,000, if you're starting from zero, or if you're even starting from $30,000 a year, versus a goal of posting to Instagram 30 times this month. Like, which one do you feel more confident in your ability to achieve? Probably posting to Instagram 30 times this month. Now, it can be whatever number. I'm not saying, these are the right way to set the goal or the wrong way to set the goal or whatever. But probably, like, you feel a lot more empowered around the 30 times a month Instagram goal versus the big $100,000 goal, which can feel intimidating, and it can feel a little scary, and it can feel like, well, I want to do this, but how am I actually going to do this? So their process-oriented goals can be a lot more realistic and attainable. In my experience, from my belief, setting and achieving goals changes your confidence. Confidence changes your mindset. Mindset then changes your life. That's really how this all cascades down. I think what's also so cool about process-oriented goals is it is consistent forward movement and consistent checking in as well. That's the other challenge I have with destination goals, is that I think it takes a level of, like sometimes they're so far out. If I say I want to make $100,000 by the end of this year, that's so far out. Like, how am I consistently remembering that that is my goal and that I am measuring and tracking that goal towards that goal? Unless I decide, set aside some time every single week or every month to remind myself that is my goal, I'm checking in on where I'm at with my goal, it can get lost, right? And so what I like, again, about process-oriented goals is the time span is so much shorter that it's easier to remember, it's easier to check in and see if you're actually making progress. And again, it's really all about the person you become on the way to achieving a goal. It's less about actually achieving that goal. I mean, obviously achieving goals is wonderful, but the change is what's important. And I think that that's something that causes a lot of people a lot of pain and struggle, is because I hear this a lot, is like the I shoulds or the I want tos. People saying, dietitians telling me all the time in their businesses, like, I really wish I was reading more. I really wish I had more time to listen to podcasts. I really wish I was able to dedicate the time to blogging or SEO. I really wish I was doing this, this, and this. And that aspirational version of yourself that is not what you are today, I think can cause people a lot of pain, where they're like, oh, I wish I could be that person. And in reality, the thing stopping you from being that person is just doing the things, right? Like just doing the things every day, like setting that big thing that you want to do into a series of smaller steps that you actually have to do. That's the other thing too. Like, you actually have to do these things. And that's what transforms you into that person that you want to be. It's actually doing the thing. And actually doing the thing means setting aside or defining what the process-oriented goal is in order to do that thing, and doing that thing every day. So it's a really interesting process. So how do I do this, and what does this actually look like? How does this come to life for me? Well, my personal methodology is I think about goals as falling under different domains in life. So I think about the domains of personal. So personal being things like relationships, friends, family, hobbies, spirituality, holidays and vacations, home. I think about the domain of wellness. So physical activity, nutrition, mental health, rest, meditation. The domain of professional, career fulfillment, career progression in your business, volunteering. And then I think about the domain of financial, savings, budgeting, debt repayment, salary, etc. So I generally think about setting goals in those four different domains. Now, I typically tend to set goals in each one of those domains, but if you're just getting started, you may not want to. You may want to just pick one or two domains that you feel like need more of your attention. So if you're like, I'm doing really well in my career, but my wellness has really taken a hit, okay, then that is the domain that you want to focus on. And then what I do is within each of those domains, or within the domain that you choose, you set a process-oriented goal within each one, or perhaps a couple process-oriented goals within each one. I'll share with you that I have about 5 goals, personal goals five. I say personal because these are like ones that I track personally. We have a whole other set of business goals, but right now I'm thinking about this more in the context of like me personally in my own life, not so much the business, but we go through this whole process for the business as well. But I have 5 process oriented goals for the year, and I'll share those with you in a second. But we want to think about, okay, what's the process oriented goal within the domains that I want to focus on? So for example, some examples under personal, it could be, I feel like my friendships could really use some work. Okay, the process-oriented goal could be go on a friend date 1 time a month. Or I always set a book goal every year, read 20 books this year. Read for 10 minutes every 2 days. Read for 10 minutes once a week. It could even be if you're starting from 0 and you're just wanting to start picking up a book again. Call your mom once a week. It could be, doing I think this is a wellness or a personal, but meditating once a week for the rest of the year. It could be something around crafting, writing 100 words every 2 days. Things that, again, you can either check yes or no in terms of having done them or not. Wellness could be something like so one of my goals one year was I really wanted to eat more vegetables. And so one of my goals was to have a vegetable snack 5 times a week. So like a snack that was just included vegetables 5 times a week. Because coming from someone who never snacked on vegetables. I was really only having vegetables like maybe with my lunch and always with my dinner. I was like, I want to add more vegetables. So that made sense for me. If it's professional, it could be something like set up 4 touch points with my manager this year. If it's financial, it could be like a savings goal. I've had savings goals around the amount of money I want to put towards my RRSP. So it could be like put $2,500 into my RRSP this year. So again, these are things that we are able to consistently track. And I think that the time span, the T in SMART goals, the time sort of like deadline, it doesn't really, it kind of depends on what your preference is here. So for me, like with a reading goal, I like to set an annual goal of like X number of books a year, because I know some months I will read more and some months I will read less. That's just sort of how it goes. If I've been on vacation or around Christmas time, I tend to read more. And so I like to set that on an annual level. If it's like a wellness goal, I will typically set that weekly or monthly, but sometimes not. And I'll share another example with you in a second of a wellness goal that's on an annual basis. But all that to say, this is sort of how I think about this, is like, okay, let's set some process-oriented goals within each of these domains or within 1 or 2 of these domains that you feel need some work. And so coming out of it, we want to have, anywhere from 3 to 5 overall process-oriented goals. So then the next step to this, though, is setting the goal, but then also deciding how are you going to track that goal. That is a really, 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 really important step that a lot of people miss. And I'll tell you how I do it. So I used to, back in the day, I had a goals journal. So it was a specific journal that I had. And this was kind of back when like bullet journaling and I think it was called bullet journaling, right? When you would like have a journal and it would be like really cute and you'd use cute little pens and all that stuff. I had a journal where I had all of my goals written out, my process-oriented goals. And every morning I did a 5-minute journal when I woke up. I would have my coffee and I would do a 5-minute journal where I would track where I was at on my goals. And it was like such a fun little morning routine process. Now, as I had kids, that goal or that way of doing things no longer worked, because I would never, I did not consistently have 5 minutes in the morning to myself to be able to do that like little goal reflection. So now what I do is I use an app called Hello Habit. There's a free version of the app, so you can use the free version. I think you can track like maybe 5 goals with the free version, and then if you want to do more, then you have to upgrade. But I use Hello Habit, and Hello Habit is basically just a goal tracking app. So you tell it what your goals are, and then every day that you do that thing, you check yes, and then so like you set what your goal is. So if you want to read like 20 books in a year, you set your goal as 20, and then every time you do it, you say, yep, I did it today, and it will start tracking what is your progress towards that goal. I really like it because it's like a visual way to see where you're actually tracking towards that goal. And now I don't check in on Hello Habit every single day. I will do it like once a week, or whenever I honestly find the time to do it. I will go in and I will even backdate, like, okay, I X meditations over the last 2 weeks. Okay, I'll check that. So so that's how I really like it. So it's setting the goals, setting, around 3 to 5 goals, and then having a way to track it. Again, it can be a journal or an app like Hello Habit. Okay, so where am I at in my goals? I'll share my goals with you, my 5 goals for 2026, and where I'm at with each of those goals. And again, these are just my like personal me goals. The business has a whole other set of goals, and it has many more goals. So we set goals there around like Instagram, how many times we're posting, how many blogs we're going to post, revenue goal, all sorts of things. We set goals sort of in every single different domain of marketing and sales. So for me personally, what were my goals for 2026? So my goals were, number 1, 20 sessions of therapy. Okay, so I love to talk about this one. I think that this is so important because I am a firm believer that you will get so much further in your business if you have a therapist. I kid you not, because the things that are holding you back in your business I can guarantee you, are linked to some deep mindset stuff that you need to work on right now in order to achieve what you want to achieve, in order to become the type of person who has and runs a business that is the type of business that you want to have and run. Like, that is a transformational process. And so consequently, you need to transform into a new version of yourself, into a different version of yourself. And I know when I look back on the last 6 years of running my business full time, the things that have held me back have always been mindset things that I have been able to overcome and work through with help, and with the help of a really awesome therapist. Now, I actually think a lot of, even in a healthcare, helping profession field where I think generally, like as dietitians, like we love the idea of therapy. We love, cross-functional teams. We love utilizing health teams and health network and all of those things. But I actually think a lot of you have a lot of preconceived notions about what therapy is and what it isn't, especially if you've never been. A lot of people still believe that therapy is something you only do if something is wrong. And I would love to challenge that mindset and introduce the idea that actually therapy can be an incredibly progressive, everything is going great, but I want it to be better. I know I can be this person that I want to be, and I want to utilize this tool in order to help me get there. So that's really my belief and has been my experience with therapy. Is I love the forward progression of it. I love that it helps me really, really move forward. And so this has been my year where, because the other thing that I have found is that therapy is not only really effective, because I think it can be effective even if you just go to one session, but like it is most effective when you're doing it regularly. And so I have seen like the most incredible growth in myself this year in 2026, even in an era that has been incredibly difficult with being postpartum with my second baby. I have him at home with me full time. I'm trying to run the business and be a full-time mom at the same time. It's so much and it's so hard, let me tell you that. And still, I have like completely transformed mentally with so many of the blocks that I had been dealing with for a really long time because of my commitment to going to therapy regularly, which I love. So where am I at with that goal? Actually, no, I'll share all the goals with you and then I'll talk about where I'm at with the goals. So my goals, 20 sessions of therapy in 2026, attend the weekly by Brooke Castillo 52 times. So what is this? This is a program that I joined at the beginning of the year with Brooke Castillo, who I mentioned earlier. She's a life coach, and she started this group called The Weekly, where basically it's just once a week coaching with her, live life coaching with her, where a whole bunch of people join a call and get coached. And she talks about her frameworks, she talks about all of these different things, and then she coaches people on the call. Now, I joined this program because I love listening to people getting coached, because it really helps me with my own coaching and how I coach other people. It helps me stay sharp. It helps me stay on top of my coaching. It helps me learn. It helps me grow. So I attended this, or rather I signed up for this at the beginning of the year, and I made a commitment to myself that I wanted to stick to it for the entire year. I didn't want to just, watch it or listen to it for a month or two and then drop off. I wanted to listen to every single episode of it. Now, it happens live, and then it is also posted as a private podcast episode. So even if I can't attend live, then I can always listen to the recording. So that is very much within my control. Attend the weekly by Brooke Castillo 52 times. Goal number 3 is read/listen to 40 books. Sometimes I read books, sometimes I listen to audiobooks. Number 4 is achieve my activity goal on my Oura Ring 300 times in 2026. So you don't really need to know the details, but I have an Oura Ring. On the Oura Ring, you get which is like an activity tracker and biometrics tracker. So you get an activity goal every day based on a bunch of different factors, but part of that is like your readiness. So every day you get a score, your readiness score, and then you get an activity goal for the day. So I want to achieve that goal 300 times in 2026. Now, this feels very manageable for me because generally that activity goal is like something I can achieve fairly easily by like going for regular walks. Like this is something that helps to ensure that I am maintaining my fitness, and it helps me ensure that I am getting out there and I'm getting active every day, even when I have a lot of other stuff going on. And then number 5 is cook through every single recipe in an entire cookbook. Okay, so where am I at on my goals? Okay, so I am behind in every single goal. And that's okay. That's okay. Because again, I am becoming a different person on the pursuit of achieving these goals than I was at the beginning of the year. And I'm really happy with that progress that I've made. And I also have 6 months left in the year that I can still achieve every single one of these goals. It's not impossible for me. I can still totally achieve every single one of these goals. So I look at these I do not attach my self-worth or how I feel about myself as to whether I'm achieving these or not. I look at them very objectively and unemotionally, where I'm like, these are amazing. I love these goals. I love that I've set them for myself. And look at me making progress towards these goals. I haven't achieved them yet, but that's okay. I'm working on them. I'm actively working on them every single day. And I feel really, really, really proud of that. Especially in, like I said, a season of life where I have a lot of other stuff going on. So where am I at? 20 sessions of therapy in 2026. I've done 6 sessions in 2026. So I've gone sort of almost every 2 weeks. And then there was a period there where I went only once in a month just because of scheduling and stuff. But I still want to achieve this goal. And I still very much believe that I can. Attend the Weekly by Brooke Castillo 52 times. I've listened to it 15 times. So again, I'm just a little bit behind, but I have all of the podcast episodes on my phone that I will listen to over the next little bit on my walks. I feel very confident in my ability to achieve this goal. Read or listen to 40 books. I've only done 10. So if I was on track, I'd be at about 20. I actually don't think I'm going to achieve that this year. And again, that's fine, but I'm really proud of myself for doing 10. And I'll probably maybe net out at the year at like 30. And that'll be great because that's going to be 30 more books that I read or listened to than I would have if I never set a goal at all. So that's great. Number 4, achieving my activity goal on my Oura Ring. My goal is 300 times. I've hit 140. So I actually think I am right on track for that goal. So that's great. Feel great about that. Cook through every single recipe in an entire cookbook. I'm very far behind. I've done 12 out of 150. I think actually I've done a few more than that. I need to go into the cookbook and actually see if what I've tracked in the app aligns with what I've actually done. Because again, like I've said, I track in the app a little bit more sporadically. And so I've probably done a few more. But this one is something I think about all the time because it's so funny. Like, I talk about so many things on Instagram and social media, and this is the one thing I get asked about all the time. Nothing else. Nothing to do with my business, nothing to do with our programs, nothing to do with DSC, literally nothing except for my cooking challenge, my cooking goal to cook through an entire cookbook. It's so hilarious. People love that journey. They love that process. And they love that goal. I don't know what it is about it, but people really resonate with it. So I want to achieve this goal, and I still actually believe that I can. I'm just behind because the reality is my life has been really full this year, and that's not an excuse. That's just my reality, and that's fine. I still believe I can achieve this goal, and I still very much want to, and I'm still going to actively try. That's the other thing too, is like, I'm not giving up. I have an entire half a year left. I have 6 months left. That's an incredible amount of time. And I know my life is going to change because I'm going to have more childcare. I'm going to have more dedicated time to work on my business. I'm going to have a lot of things in the latter half of this year that are going to be completely different than I did in the first half of this year. So let's rock and roll. I'm excited to continue to execute on these goals. So to summarize, goal setting. Though I think destination goals can be helpful, and I do believe in setting a destination revenue goal for your business, I very much am a firm believer in process-oriented goals. So what I would recommend doing is I would set 3 to 5 goals in a domain or 2 domains in your life that need a little bit of extra attention. Domains being personal, wellness, professional, and financial. Setting 3 to 5 goals, deciding how you are going to track those goals, whether it is a daily journal, whether it is an app like Hello Habit, whether it is a different app, whether it's a different process. The whole point is that you are continuously checking in on these goals throughout this year so that you don't get to December and think, oh, yeah, right, I set that goal and I forgot that I even had it. Okay. Well, I hope that episode was fun. I hope you enjoyed that episode. It was fun to just, even for myself, do a little mid-year goal check-in to see how I'm doing. I would love to hear about your goals. If you've set some goals, send me a DM at kristaco.rd on Instagram. And like I said, I'm going to be teaching through this process in more depth at the Dietitian Success Summit in September. One of the things that's so cool about the summit is we are designing the first ever dietitian planner, which we will eventually be selling. It's going to be like a full 365-day planner. It's going to be incredible. This thing is like it's going to be worth an incredible amount of money. It's like this beautiful spiral bound agenda of your dreams. And in it, we are incorporating all of these components of goal setting, of tracking your goals, like having goal trackers throughout so that it's all very intentionally laid out to support all of the content that we cover in the summit. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so amazing. And so as a summit attendee, you get one of these for free included in your ticket, which is wild because the value there is amazing. Okay, so come to the summit. Tickets are on sale. The link is in the description of this episode. Come to the summit. Early bird prices end in July. July 10th is the deadline there. So I would love to meet you in person. I would love to, see you and talk about goal setting, talk about entrepreneurship, talk about all the things. Okay, I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you in the next episode.